It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. As Josh said, I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our social medias all the time. What's the new one? X. That's what Twitter is. I don't know what to call it now.
Yeah.
It could be called X. But we're on there, Around the 412. Go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, if that's still a thing. That thing lived for like a week.
Depending on what happens with X.
Depending on what happens with X. But yeah, and then go subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Leave us a review, and drop a comment. Tell us what you think of the videos, what you want to see, what you want to see us talk about, as well as go check out the links in the description of each and every show. We launched year 6 of Rocking Around the 412. We've raised over $25,000 with the help of all of you in the previous 5 years to help children for Christmas time in our local 412/724 areas, as well as partnered up with the Salvation Army as well. And so if you want to go check that out and read about the mission, you can go check out the link in the description. It'll be at the top of each and every show from now up until December, whenever we kick that thing off. So yeah, just go check that out, read about it, and share it if you can, because even if you can't donate, as many eyeballs as we can get on it, that will help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already raised $1,000. Thank you to one single person for that $1,000 donation, man. Mike in Illinois is insane. Going to be able to take care. Whether that goes to, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know exactly where specifically that $1,000 is going to go to, but to put it in perspective, in the past, that's about how much we spend on one family. So he's essentially taking care of Christmas for one entire family, or whatever, a handful of kids from the Salvation Army, however that ends up getting divvied up. But very excited about this year. I know the prizes are going to be great. Like, just, I think I was pretty open about the situation last year with myself. I wasn't working at Christmas time, so I 100% take responsibility for the fact that the prizes were not up to snuff when you look at past years. This year, we're coming back. The prizes are going to be great again. Make the prizes of Around the 412 great again. That's what I'm rolling with.
We're going to start selling the merch.
Yeah, everything custom designs linked in the description. But I'm really excited about this year. I'm really excited about a lot of things, including the Steelers being back at training camp. It is that week. It seems like it flew. Like, I feel like it was just yesterday we were sitting here doing the live draft show with Sarge and Drew on here. And Jake joined us for night 2. And that was
3 months ago.
By the way, one of my favorite nights of the year. Always absolutely love those 2 nights of doing the draft stuff. But here we are. Joey Porter Jr., second-round pick, does get signed in time. That seemed like it could have potentially been a headline. But how weird is it now that was taken care of, to go into camp and it's like there's no drama? Like, no one's starting on the PUP list. There's nobody holding out. Like, everything is good right now in Steelers land. It almost feels super weird now. I'm almost like waiting for something to happen to change that, like to stir that up. I actually tweeted about it. It just seems a little bit too quiet on the Steelers front.
Yeah, it's like we're not even a fan of the Steelers going to this training camp. I mean, we're not even waiting for an extension because Highsmith already got that done. The past couple of seasons, we've had some large extensions we've been waiting on too. It is kind of refreshing, not going to lie, because we all know how the Steelers have been over the past several seasons, whether you're going back to the Lev Bell and all the AB stuff, and then you have we're waiting for a TJ contract, we're waiting for a Minka contract. This year we really, and this year we don't have anything. We are going into the season. I wonder if this is how normal teams feel whenever they start training camp. Like, there's nothing to be anxious about.
Feel like it's more abnormal right now the way that the Steelers are, because I feel like you normally have a contract that you're trying to resolve. I mean, look at right now, there's 3 superstars in Zach Martin, Nick Bosa, and Chris Jones of the Chiefs. Those guys are all holding out right now, and look at those teams. Those are teams with pretty high aspirations this year. And I feel like the Steelers right now, with what we're dealing with it being absolutely nothing going on, that's more abnormal than having at least some type of, whether it's contract dispute or some storyline going into training camp. The fact that they took care of the Highsmith extension and this Joey Porter Jr. thing in the last week, which, by the way, the Joey Porter Jr. thing, like we always knew was going to get done. It was just
even
super
really
tricky. It was just weird because of him being that 32nd pick, and normally that being a first-round pick, there was like a discrepancy on how much of that fourth year would get guaranteed, because normally second-round picks don't get as much as he got, which, I mean, makes sense. He was the 32nd pick of the draft, so he got 70% of his final year of his rookie contract fully guaranteed, which, I mean, to me, it should be 100%. Like, anyway, but that's a different discussion. So, glad to see that got done and he can get on the field. We expect that he's going to be on the field quite a bit. I want to talk about that. I saw, we had been kind of touching on, like, that's going to be one of the intriguing things to watch with the secondary, how they deploy them, especially when you get into like nickel and dime sets. Joey Porter Jr., I think, is going to play, and he's going to play a lot, and he's going to play early on. Patrick Peterson played 0 snaps last year in the slot, yet we're just like assuming that he's going to be the slot corner for this team when they go into nickel and dime. I don't know what the team is envisioning right now. But again, like, I mean, I've said it for months. I just don't see how, when you look at the state of their cornerback room, their best isn't Joey Porter Jr. and Levi Wallace on the outside with Patrick Peterson inside. I just don't see a different way when you look at those cornerbacks.
What do you mean? They have veteran Chandon Sullivan to go into the slot. Obviously, the snaps mean that he's good. No, I agree. I don't see another way around it. And even if it takes Patrick Peterson a little bit to get used to being in the slot, I still think that's worth it over just putting Chandon Sullivan in there just because he has the experience in the slot. I would rather have the best talent out there than the guy who has played the position the most, to be completely honest. Maybe that's a backwards way of thinking about it, but I think someone as skilled as Patrick Peterson and has the veteran knowledge of Patrick Peterson would be able to figure it out quickly, and I would be more okay with the little bit of growing pain he could have at the position, especially because if he can figure out in training camp, then that's fine, and in the preseason too. But
he's done it in the past. It's just not last year, and it's only like 21 snaps over the last 2 seasons. So it's asking him to go back and do something he really hasn't done much of since Arizona.
Yeah, and we're talking about him doing it full time. That's why I mean, like, it's going to take an adjustment period for him to be basically a full-time slot corner if you're assuming that Joey Porter Jr. and Levi Wallace are going to be your outside guys. But I do think, and I agree with you, that is your best secondary with those 3 guys in those positions. I don't think that guys like Chandon Sullivan are going to bring much value. I'm sure they're nice depth pieces, and they can go in there in a pinch. But based especially off of last year, that's not a guy you want in your slot. He wasn't good. So, yeah, I think that Joey Porter Jr. is going to be playing a lot. I think that he's easily – like, I think we talked about this whenever the draft was over. We were talking about who we think could be starting first on like game 1, whether it would be Broderick Jones or Joey Porter Jr. And we both said that we thought that Joey Porter Jr. was the easier pick to say that they're going to start from game 1. And I think that's because you look at the positions that they have, the people that they have at the position of corner, and then you look at like tackle. It's easier to see how Broderick Jones is going to be a backup and Joey Porter Jr. is the starter. I think it's the position of need for the talent that they have right now. That's the easiest one. So Joey Porter Jr. definitely going to be the starter in my book.
Yeah, I mean, and we know that Mike Tomlin's going to make the rookies earn it. But to your point, Dan Moore Jr. is opening up camp as the number 1 left tackle, which we fully expected to be the case. I think the question is going to be like, how are the reps? Is it like a 1A, 1B, or is it like Dan Moore Jr. is clearly right now the starter and Broderick Jones is running second team reps? Like, I think it's going to be very telling, not just how we start, because is whatever, but as we go through training camp to see how it progresses, to see if it gets more close to like a 50-50 split. But yeah, I mean, Joey Porter Jr., let me throw Corey Trice in there too, just with the state of the secondary and that cornerback room, just because I look at him very similar to Joey Porter, just in terms of like, if you were building cornerbacks, those are probably what they look like. And Cincinnati had a player last year, Trey Flowers, who they used as kind of like because teams a lot of time, and you're going to see the Steelers do this with Freiermuth this year, especially with getting Washington, flex their tight end out and almost use them as like a slot receiver. Flowers and what I think Corey Trice could do for this team could be that like eliminator within the slot for tight ends. So that is why, it gets my mind going. And now all of a sudden I do see a path where you get Peterson some snaps on the outside. I think you could see him play some safety. It's like, I think he is going to move around. I mean, he's talked about it, but I fully expect that to happen. But yeah, I think Corey Trice, depending on how camp goes for him, he looked really good at mini camp. But, it was football in shorts. Now that we're getting pads on, I think it's going to be a little bit more telling. Yeah. I think he could have a role as well within this defense because of, again, I keep going back to it, but like I looked at this cornerback room, there's opportunities to be had there.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look at the pedigree of Corey Trice, a lot of people would say pedigree. What are you talking about? He was a late round pick. Well, this is a guy that was almost consensus a top 100 player in the draft prior to his injury. If you're just looking at like what he did when he was on the field, this was a guy that was going to be at least a fourth, if not a third round pick. So I think for sure Corey Trice could see some playing time, and he has that similar build, similar to Joey Porter Jr. And it was clear, and we talked about this when they drafted him, that the Steelers had a vision for the type of corners that they want in their defense right now. When you look at what they got with Trice and Joey Porter Jr. and bringing in Patrick Peterson, it's very clear that they want tall, long corners that are very athletic. And so, yeah, I agree absolutely that Trice could have a play in the cornerback room. I think that he'll be, to me, the first one off the field. If you're having Patrick Peterson in the slot, outside corners as Levi Wallace and Joey Porter Jr., he's the next man up on the outside.
Yeah, so he's gonna be battling with like a James Pierre, I guess, to kind of be that next guy up on the boundary. But to your point, I guess it is kind of weird to throw the word pedigree around with a 7th round pick, but I had him as a round 3 player. I think a lot of people had him going within that range. I was, if they would have taken him instead of Washington at 93, I wouldn't have questioned it. And then I absolutely wanted him with that Herbig pick at 120 or whatever it was, or something within that range. No, they moved down from 120. So wherever they ended up picking Herbig at,
131,
that's something. Yeah. 130 something, but that's where I would have been
him at 241 in round 7.
Yeah. I mean, it's like outside of Spencer Anderson, because I think Herbig is going. I don't expect to see him get a ton of snaps on the defense. I think he's going to play a lot on special teams. Outside of like Spencer Anderson, I think this rookie class, while maybe not like right away for all of them, I think they're going to have an impactful 2023. A lot of these guys. I think Spencer Anderson's really the only one that I wouldn't expect to see. I think if you do see him, something went pretty wrong on the interior of that offensive line.
Yeah, because it's Spencer Anderson, and no shade to him, but we were on here like, who is this guy? We don't know who they are.
Yeah. I mean, I looked into him and I was like, okay, like these are the types of guys that get drafted here in this spot because he's played all 5 spots at Maryland. So makes a ton of sense.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, this Steelers rookie draft, I said it at the time, on paper, it's arguably the best draft that we've seen in our lifetime. And then you look at just those first 4 picks. Maybe Darnell Washington is not going to be the starter because we still have Pat Freiermuth, but in his own way, he's going to be a starter, in my opinion, because in certain block, like if it's a run blocking situation for a tight end, he's the guy to go in there. And so when you look at him, and then you look at Keanu Benton, Joey Porter Jr., and Broderick Jones, those are 4 guys that, if they're not going to be a starter, are going to be impactful right away for the Steelers. And we haven't really had a draft like that. There's been like 1 or 2 guys in an entire draft class, but we're talking about like 5 or 6 guys that, whether it's going to be offense, defense, or special teams, are going to have significant playing time from game 1, which is pretty significant for a class as a whole.
I'm going to go on the record right now, and then we can look back at the end of the season and see how close I was. Darnell Washington is going to play somewhere between 35 to 40% of this team's offensive snaps. I think it's going to be like,
because he's the only one that can block.
Yeah, it's going to be like Vance McDonald when Ebron was here. Like, Ebron was considered the starter. Vance McDonald was still playing like 40% of the snaps.
Yeah. No, so I think you're absolutely right, because that's what we talked about pre-draft, is that if they're going to address tight end, it needed to be a guy like Washington, because they don't have a tight end that is the clear-cut blocker right now. They have pass-catching tight ends. They don't have run blockers. They got it with Darnell Washington, so I think it makes perfect sense. There's no need to have Freiermuth in there in a run situation where you're running the ball. I don't think that there's a need to have Freiermuth on the field.
Yeah, and please don't come into the comments about Pat Freiermuth being the 4th best pass blocking tight end. if he's blocking on a passing play, I'm already upset. I think it's per PFF, which I'm not even debating that. I'm not debating if he's a good pass blocker or not. Why is he pass blocking instead of running a route?
That's what I mean. Is like, if he's not on the field to run a route, then what's he doing? We already said that he's the best slot receiver on the team.
Yeah, I do. I'm excited about. I like keep having to remind myself that Allen Robinson's on this football team, but
we get Calvin Austin this year.
Yeah, hopefully. But I think with Allen Robinson, I don't think he's to be a high volume pass catcher. Like, I mean, I feel like that's pretty easy to say because I don't think there'd be a high, pass volume offense to begin with. And there's only one football. He's probably like the fourth option in the pass game. But I think okay, I already kind of went out on a limb and threw out a percentage for Washington. I think Allen Robinson's got a shot to lead this team in touchdowns. And it's only going to be like somewhere 8 to 10, but I think he's going to have like a third or fourth of his catches be touchdowns.
I mean, I
it's going to be like Jericho Cotchery in whatever year that 2012,
just
11,
he's not going to get a lot of touches, but they're all going to be very significant, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. All on like third down or for a touchdown.
I could see that. And it's going to be funny because Deontay's going to lead the team with like 112 receptions and 2 touchdowns.
You know what? I didn't tell you about this. I know you love when I spring segments on you, but
I do.
To wrap up the Steelers conversation, we're going to have a maybe only one-time segment. We'll see if I can come up with ways to keep integrating this. We're going to do Beefy's better thans here. Better chance of here.
All right.
5 things Steelers related that there's a better chance of happening. I'm going to give you 2 options. You pick which one you think has the better chance of happening.
All right, let's do it.
Mike Tomlin, Coach of the Year, or TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year?
TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year.
It's already happened in the past.
It's already happened. I think Tomlin has been snubbed in the past multiple times. I think there's higher likelihood of TJ winning it again.
Okay, pay attention to the second part of this because it's a little bit intricate. Not really, but so Najee leading the lead in rushing yards or George Pickens leading the lead in receptions of at least 20 yards?
George Pickens leading the league in receptions of 20 yards.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because I think that with Jaylen Warren in the background, you're not relying on Najee as much as you normally would if you don't have a good running back too. And I just think that looking at some of the rushers, a lot of teams really rely on their running backs. And I don't think the Steelers are necessarily one of them. I do think that they're going to run the ball a lot this year, but I don't think they're going to rely just on Najee to run the ball. And when they do, I still think they're going to throw more than some other teams will. Like, I don't think that even in the division, I don't think that Najee will rush for more than Nick Chubb will.
Yeah. Okay. Minka in interceptions or TJ Watt in sacks?
TJ Watt in sacks.
Okay.
Is Minka going to get like 20 interceptions?
No. I'm sorry. Minka leading the lead in interceptions.
Oh, leading the lead.
TJ Watt leading the lead in sacks. Yeah.
Same answer.
Okay. Kenny Pickett leading the lead in fourth quarter or game-winning drives, or Cole Holcomb leading the lead in total tackles?
It's tough because I haven't seen Cole Holcomb play a snap for the Steelers yet. I'll say that the Steelers are the Kenny leading the league in fourth quarter comebacks. We saw 2 late in the year last year. We know he has that rhythm to be able to do it. That's what I'm basing
the question off of.
Yeah, we know he has that rhythm to be able to do it. And I feel like a lot of the Steelers games, like maybe the offense isn't quite going to take the step that we think they could and put up a ton of numbers. So they're going to have those late comebacks, and the defense is going to hold other teams to a low enough points to make it happen.
All right, and this is the last one. Steelers win the division or Steelers finish below 500?
Man, this is tough because that is such a huge. You're basically saying they're going to win the division or lose division. That's basically what you're saying. How unlikely it may seem, I think that they have a better shot of winning the division than they do of being below 500.
Okay. I feel like that makes you relatively high on the Steelers this year. Because, I mean, 8-9 obviously would mean that they were under 500, but to win the division, that would probably, you would think, take 12 wins at least, 12 if not 13. I mean,
yeah, and I don't know if I'll necessarily, when we do a season prediction, predict them to go that high. But out of the two,
right.
I am high on the Steelers, and I think a lot of it is based off what we've talked about just this episode, like the draft class that they just had, some of the free agents that they brought in. I think that I'm optimistic about what the Steelers are going to look like this year, and a lot of it is going to boil down to how Kenny Pickett can progress in year two. That I think is what is going to make or break the Steelers in 2023. So it'll be fun to watch that. But yeah, I think that there's a better shot that they win the division than them going under 500. And especially Tomlin's still coach. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I saved that one for last because I felt like that one was the toughest one. Good one to end on. All right. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk we'll do Penguins. We'll do the Penguins next. We'll talk some Pittsburgh. We're always so well planned on this show. So we'll be right back to talk some Pittsburgh Penguins hockey. I don't want to just, get on here every single week and bore everybody talking about the same old topic of Erik Karlsson, but there is one piece of information as it relates to the Penguins on this front. If you want to say it's news, Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang have given their blessing for the Penguins to acquire Erik Karlsson. Now, Sidney Crosby, I don't think it necessarily means as much, but it's good to know that, like, Chris Letang, who would actively be taking a back seat to some extent, I don't know that it's necessarily on the top, defensive pairing, but at least on the power play, you would think that it would be him taking a little bit of a backseat to Erik Karlsson. It's good to know that at this stage of his career, Chris Letang is willing to do so. He's not like one of those, he's not going to pout and, make a big stink about it and say, no, I don't want my team to acquire this guy, step on any toes. So I'm still hopeful that this ends up getting done. It was good to see that, two of the franchise legends have given their blessing for the team to acquire him.
I agree. I think that this is I wonder if this is the way of them saying, like, we want this to happen. Obviously, giving your blessing and saying that you want it,
talking through the media
things. But yeah, talking through the media, maybe this is their way of saying, like, we want him here. But I think that it is interesting, and it's cool that Letang is able to do that, because you don't know what it'd be like whenever Karlsson could come to Pittsburgh. Like, is Letang going to still be the number one power play guy? Is he going to be the top minutes guy? Is he going to be in the first pairing? Like, all of that could change, but the fact that he's okay with it, I think that's says a lot about Letang and the person that he is, but also that would make me excited for how the Penguins could deploy both of them. That would be really fun to me. Now we're just waiting.
I wonder though if maybe Letang's looking at it as this is a way to get some weight off of his shoulders. Like, we're looking at it like, from a pride perspective, it's good that he's giving this his blessing. But maybe it's like the fact he wants it to happen because he wants to play less minutes at this point in his career. Now, with Chris, I kind of find that hard to believe. I mean, I feel like he wants to be out there 60 minutes a night, but we really don't know. We don't know what his motive is or what he's looking for. Maybe this is a way to trim him down to, more like 22, 23 a night or something like that, as opposed to 27, 28.
That's trimming down too. No, I agree. I think that would be a good way to really, I'm not close out Letang's career, but like start to help prolong it. Essentially, I mean, he's got 5 years left on that extension, so if he wants to make it through that, he needs to be taking care of that body. And what a better way than to bring in a guy like that to take some of the load off
for 4 years at least,
yeah, for at least 4 of the years. But now we're just kind of in a staring contest. So that's the way I described it the other night to somebody. Is like, we are in I think the Penguins, the Sharks, and the Hurricanes, and who knows, maybe even a third team, are just in a staring contest, and we're just waiting for the first person to blink. I don't think, I wonder if, like, how many offers have been thrown out there, if any. Like, obviously, I'm sure the Sharks have told the teams what they would like to receive, but I'm wondering how many counters have they actually had, or if the Hurricanes or Penguins or whoever has actually given a counter offer yet and actually said one. Because I feel like if we did, we would at least know about it, or the ball would seem to be rolling a little bit more than it has now. I think everybody's just kind of like holding their breath and waiting for something to happen, waiting to see who makes the first move. That way they can judge what they're going to do. I think that the Penguins should just stop waiting around and just do it. First off, I think that they should just do it. And
I'm not saying this because, we're Penguins fans. I just don't think that anybody else is really that serious about it. Like, I think the Hurricanes are in it
unserious
just like
programs.
I think the Hurricanes are kind of looking at it similarly to like Brent Burns, where it's like, hey, if you just want to give him away to us, sure, we'll take him. I think Seattle, from like a financial perspective, is really the team that makes the most sense out of them. They wouldn't necessarily have to even really like shed anything. I know that they just got Vince Dunn back on that raise. 4 years, 7 point something? A pretty nice raise for him, but he had a really nice year. Toronto, they brought in Klingberg and they got their own contract thing still going on with Nylander and then Matthews coming up that they're trying to figure out. That one's hard for me to imagine. And unless there's like another team that hasn't been thrown out there, that's it. That leaves the Penguins. And I know that right now from a cap perspective, it doesn't look like it's feasible, but I mean, there wouldn't be this level of interest going on if they didn't know that they could make this work. Like
my magic number, and of course this could change. My magic number is 40%. If you can get San Jose to retain 40% of the salary, then that means
what if it's even collectively? Like,
it could be collectively too. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. It could be spread out. But I think the magic number for me is 40%. That means the Penguins would be paying him $6.9 million per year. Nice. And I think that you would be able to make that work with the cap. I think you'd be able to bring in a third team on that. Now, I think the harder part outside of getting them to retain salary is what are they going to want outside of that? Like what besides a first round pick? What's going to be the other stuff involved?
That's the thing. Is like the consensus seems to be that they're not getting anything. Like, I think a deal's done by now if they have that on the table. I just don't think it's there. Now, Greer could just say, okay, well, then we're not moving him, but if we don't get the return that we want, that could get really ugly. I mean, Karlsson has requested a trade, pretty much said that he expects to not be in San Jose next year. He's made it seem like the ball's totally in his court in terms of where he wants to play, which I don't know if you paid attention to that interview at all or saw any snippets from it, but he was like talking about conversations he's had with teams, and he's trying to make the best decision for him. It's like, is this guy a free agent?
Is this like Lamar last year, like before his extension? They just like gave him the free will to openly talk to teams.
I just think like when they're not going to get the return that you would think they would get for the type of player that we're talking about because of what his contract looks like, the trade demand that he's made, like the fact that it doesn't seem like he's going to play in San Jose. They don't hold many, if any, cards right now. And another thing that's working against them, and this is a really good point that I heard brought up by somebody, is the salary cap has not increased the way that people like. They obviously brought in Karlsson and he's been making that money. That was before COVID, and it kind of like made the salary cap plateau with the league. And you're now seeing guys sign, these extensions, like these younger defensemen that are like the next, really good players. Cale Makar, who else has recently signed an extension? Like Miro Heiskanen,
all these
like
players.
These younger. No, the defense Hughes in Vancouver.
I know who you're talking about. I just thought it was fun. Cale Makar. Yeah. Who else is signing these extensions?
That next wave of young defensemen, they're all getting like 8 to 9 million, and you got Karlsson making 11.5. It's harder to move that. So I think if you can, that's why teams are trying to get them to retain to make him, an $8-ish million player at the very least, because then it's more palatable. But they're still not going to get anywhere close to the return that you would think a player like him would warrant.
Here's what I think needs to happen, though. I think everything that you said is correct. I think that San Jose is not going to get nearly as much as they think they're going to get, or what some people would seem to think they're going to get from an Erik Karlsson trade. But I think that San Jose doesn't realize that yet. I think that they just need to basically bite the bullet and know that they are not going to get what they rightfully should for a guy like Erik Karlsson. It's just not going to happen. I don't think that they've come to grips with that yet, and I think that's probably the reason that a deal has not happened yet, because they're still holding out on the hopes that they're going to get a bigger return when it's just not going to happen. I feel like a team like the Penguins, despite the situation they are with their prospects, the cap, all that, they're probably going to give one of the best offers to San Jose that they're going to see in the league. So I feel like it's probably more of San Jose not really just coming to grips that they are going to have to take whatever deal they can instead of the deal that they want. And that's why nothing has happened, and it's just dead silent right now.
Yeah, I mean, really, on the Penguins front, it seems like we're just kind of waiting.
I think we're waiting on that. I think Kyle is waiting on them to say yes. I think Kyle probably has the offer in hand, and he's probably just waiting for them to call.
And it's not changing.
And it's just not changing. I think that he is prepared to make the trade. I'm sure Kyle already knows who's going where, what third team he wants to get involved, and all of that sort of stuff. And he's just kind of sitting there all pretty, waiting for the phone to ring, because he knows eventually it's going to ring, because San Jose is in a crappy situation heading into the season, like you just reflected on. I think that they know that they can't go into the season with Karlsson. It's not going to happen. And if they do, like you said, it could go bad. Obviously, I don't know of any situation in the NHL that we've had like in the NFL where like someone is going to hold out. But and I don't think Karlsson would hold out, but he's not going to be happy, and he's going to be pissed while he's playing there. So if I'm them, you got to just bite the bullet, take what you can, and then just move on from it.
Predictively, I do still think he ends up in Pittsburgh some way, somehow. I think the longer this goes on, though, the more it worries me that like other teams are going to get the message that, we should get involved here, because it doesn't look like the return's going to be that much anyway. And I know like Kyle's not going to panic, but I'm not Kyle. I'm a fan. And again, do I think this team needs Erik Karlsson? Kinda, honestly. I mean, that's been like a big debate. And my only thing here is, we had Nick Berlansky and Nick Horwat of Tip of the Iceberg on last week, and they were talking about, how they didn't think the Penguins needed Erik Karlsson. And need can mean a lot of different things. The way that I'm putting it, what's basing my opinion of this is how they've gone about this offseason. They've built a defense first bottom six. They're running it back seemingly in net, whether they've obviously added some other guys that could play a role, but Tristan Jarry is going to be the main guy in net. It's been all about defense this offseason. Where is the offense coming from to supplant this? And where is the secondary scoring coming from to support this aging core? I can give up a little bit on the back end where, Erik Karlsson, obviously not the best defensive player, to get what he provides offensively when you're talking about obviously 5v5, second most points, 5v5, not among defensemen, second most points last year, 5v5 amongst anybody. And what he would bring to a power play. I think he would be their best power play player since Phil Kessel.
Maybe the power play might actually look good instead of the mediocre power play that they've had.
I actually have an idea to do a video looking at the Penguins power play with Phil Kessel here, what it's been like without Phil Kessel, and then Erik Karlsson running the power play both in Ottawa and San Jose, and what he could bring to the power play. Because I really think that is the way to unlock this. So I think just in a plethora of ways, I get he's not the greatest in his own end. I think everything else that he would do to contribute to this team outweighs that. And I said it before, I think he hasn't had a partner that's as good defensively as Marcus Pettersson.
I agree. And I think that Nick Berlansky last week said that like if they could change the way they play, talking about the Penguins, if they don't acquire Karlsson, and they could still be more productive than they were last year, but they'd have to change the way to the way they play, where they are old and boring like the New York Islanders. And that's a valid
point. Ilya Sorokin in net? I mean, because
not just that, but is Mike Sullivan not going to be the coach? because I just don't see Mike Sullivan coaching a hockey team that way. I don't see him coaching a shutdown type of offense. He's still going to want the fast pace of play and playing off of the rush and playing in transition. I don't think that the Penguins are going to shy away from that as long as Sullivan is the head coach. So while that is being said, they're not going to change the way they play. You need to supplement that scoring that you're going to be lacking in the bottom end of the forwards with a guy like Erik Karlsson. He's going to be good at 5-on-5, like we just said. He has the second most points 5-on-5 last year among all skaters, and he's going to be great on the power play. I think that you have to get some more scoring from the blue line if you're not going to get it from your bottom six. And Erik Karlsson is literally perfect. There's no player more perfect to get more scoring from your blue line than the one you'd be acquiring that scored 101 points last year on the San Jose freaking Sharks. Okay. I don't think that there's any way about it that they would be a better team. And I think that they would improve immediately. And there's no other guy, like we touched on last week. There's no other guy that you can bring in. I don't even think forward wise too. That's realistically, obviously you can say like, yeah, we can bring him with David. That's not going to happen. Any realistic option that you could bring in is not going to drive this team offensively like Erik Karlsson will. So absolutely, they need to do it. And worst comes to worst, he could come to Pittsburgh on March 14th because that's when the Sharks play here. So that's the latest he'll be in Pittsburgh. Hopefully it's way before that. Hopefully it's in like a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think the question is, do they try to hold on to him until the deadline this upcoming season? I don't see a way that I would put the odds of him being moved before the season starts.
But what if he has a season like he did 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Or 3 years ago. Like what if he just falls off a cliff from that 101 points? Then there's going to be no interest from anybody because no one will want to take the contract on.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're going to be
literally the Sharks have
attaching their things.
Literally the Sharks have no control. What this boils down to is the Sharks need to let go of their pride and realize that they are not going to get the deal that they want for Erik Karlsson and just get rid of him already.
And that's where I'm at, but that's why it's also like weird that there's not more teams involved. You know, like
maybe people don't want to take on the contract. I mean,
even if it's Karlsson, maybe it's Karlsson saying, "This is who I want to play for."
That could be the case. I mean, how many teams can he say he wants to play for? 8?
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about from like a contract clause standpoint. I just mean like literally telling teams this is where I want to be, that are trying to like inquire.
Yeah, that could be the case. He could hit up Kyle on the daily and just be like, "Where's the trade offer? I'm waiting here."
Yeah. And then the last, we're waiting for August 4th. So we'll have a show before. Yeah, that we'll have a show like the day before that, I think.
Yeah. 2 days.
So that's Drew O'Connor. Okay. That's Drew O'Connor's hearing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, or if anything comes before that, or that opens up that buyout window. There's a lot of things that could happen with that Drew O'Connor thing. They could obviously agree to something. It could go all the way to it, and an arbitrator decides what his salary is going to be. His rights could be moved in a deal before then, whether it's for Karlsson or something else, maybe to a third team in the Karlsson. There's so many things that could happen with this. I really like Drew O'Connor as a player. I do think that we haven't seen, the upside get tapped into much yet. But he's not somebody that I'm like, prospect hugging and saying I can't include this guy in an Erik Karlsson deal.
I can't even say that, and I also can't say that depending on what happens in arbitration, if it does go all the way to the hearing and an arbiter does give a number, if the Penguins don't want to play that number, I can't really say that Drew O'Connor is going to be a guy that I would want the Penguins to overpay for either.
What's he got? Like, how many points does he even have? He has less than like 20 points in his NHL career, right? I can't see him getting much.
Yeah, but arbitration's weird. It's weird how they value these guys.
You think he's going to get over like $1 million?
I would think so, honestly.
That's crazy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like trying to like pocket watch and say, "Oh, you kidding me?" This guy. It's just like right now what he's done. I
agree fully, but
yeah.
I think arbitration is obviously it's not the same as free agency, but it's kind of the same in a sense of like some of these guys get surprisingly more money than what we think they would be worth. And I don't think that the Penguins should overpay for that. So if it comes to that
like
point,
with baseball where there's like projections on this stuff?
I don't know. I have no idea what a projection would be.
I was trying to see here if I found anything, but I don't.
But I do feel like it would be more than $1 million.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I don't
probably because if it wasn't, I mean, the Penguins have probably offered him $1 million. Like I feel like he probably would have just taken it. Yeah. That's crazy though. I mean, what are you willing to pay Drew O'Connor?
$1 million.
Yeah, I almost hope that they come to an agreement of like 2 years, $2 million, like one per.
Yeah, like I just like we said, it was nothing against the guy, but like I don't think that Drew O'Connor has shown to me that he's worth really giving more than that. So if they get a deal done, great. I'll be happy, and I'll be happy to see how it works out with Drew O'Connor in a more elevated role, playing more full time at the NHL level. But also, if the deal doesn't get done and he either gets traded or becomes a free agent or trades rights, whatever happens with him, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it either. So it is what it is.
It could play into, I mean, he had a really good world championship run too. So like, does that play into it too? Like, is it not just the NHL season that factors into what a guy's getting?
Did he have a good world championship run? I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, he played a big part for Team USA.
He had 8 points in 10 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. Yeah, he's getting more than $1 million.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, at the NHL level, he has, 17 points in 68 and 78 games. So, but you're right. That USA run, I mean, even though that has nothing to do with what you did in the NHL,
he is
shouldn't factor into his arbiter's decision, but that's going to get him at least 1.5.
He is a .22 point per game player.
I mean, that's a solid $2 million a year player.
All right. Yeah, we got to stop talking about this. But all right, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to wrap up talking about the Pirates trade deadline coming up here very soon. We might have seen the last of some Pirates, or we're going to see the last of them soon. Certainly by the next time that we have an episode, there probably will be some type of movement. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay right here. All right, the MLB trade deadline, August 1st, 2023. I look at the Pirates roster right now. Rich Hill, Carlos Santana, G-Man Choi. Some team might have interest in Austin Hedges as a backup just because of, what he brings from a framing perspective.
If they have interest in them, they're nerds, okay? Absolutely.
So it came out that the Pirates were listening on David Bednar and Mitch Keller. And I'm not going to okay, they should be listening, right? But I don't expect either one to get moved. Certainly not Mitch Keller. I think with David Bednar, as wild as it is to say, that might be the harder one to sell to the fan base. But I don't know where you stand on this. I wouldn't if you can net something that is at other positions of need that can help you as early as next season. I'm certainly not against moving David Bednar just because he's a closer. He's, giving you, the Pirates have used him for 2 innings at times, but typically he's a 1-inning pitcher that on a bad team doesn't serve much purpose. Relievers, although Bednar has been very good for multiple seasons, from one season to the next, there's a lot of volatility there with the position. So I could be talked into moving Bednar for the right package. I can't be talked into Mitch Keller. The other guys I just mentioned, sure. I like Carlos Santana. I like G-Man Choi's really started to turn it on in a limited number of at-bats. Rich Hill, he's an innings eater. It's very sad that he's been the Pirates' third best pitcher this year because he hasn't even pitched that well. It's just a state of the rotation. And then Hedges, obviously, I don't even need to say anything, I don't think, there. But where are you at with this? Do you expect what guys that I've mentioned do you expect to still be on the roster? How many do you think are moving?
Out of the guys you mentioned, I think that there's a good chance Rich Hill is gone. I think there's a good chance that G-Man Choi could be gone. And I'm looking at these guys because they have 1-year contracts. Like they're not guys that are signed for even 2 years. They're guys that if you don't trade them, you're not going to get any value out of them whatsoever. They're going to play out this season and then move on. That's most likely what's going to happen. So you get what you can out of them. So I think those are the guys. Hedges, I mean, send him to the freaking sun for all I care. He can go frame up there. But I think that if he's moved, then whatever. The team's an idiot. But when it comes to Bednar, I think the Pirates really have to look at what they want to do next season if you want to move Bednar or not. If the Pirates are serious about thinking that they are going to take the next step and think that Bednar can still be the type of pitcher he's going to be a year from now, then you hang on to him and you hope for the best in 2024. You hope that you're in contention and David Bednar could be like your Mark Melancon. If not, then I see no reason not to be at least taking the calls. I mean, you should take calls on anybody. Like you said, like you don't have to say yes. You should just at least see what people are offering for any player. But if David Bednar is not going to be on a team that's in contention next year, I think that you need, or at least that wants to be in contention next year, I think that you should probably try to get the most value out of him. And right now, he will have a high value. You can probably get a good return for him. And like you said, we've seen it with relievers, especially year to year. There could be such a drop off from what they were the year prior. So you never know what he'll look like next season. And so I think like I said, what it comes down to is what the Pirates really think about what they have in 2024. That's how you should base your decision off with him. Keller, I don't think they should move at all. I think you should still be talking about extending Keller, not trading Keller. But yeah, Bednar, that's the more tricky one. I think it really comes down to the Pirates and how they think they're going to perform in 2024. What kind of team do they want to be? Because if you're going to be winning, then he's a great asset to have. But if you're going to be just more of the same, then you might as well move on.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm saying, like, I think that if you're trading him, it's got to be for pieces that are helping the team still next year. And even then, it's like, at what positions, and also what's that bullpen look like without him? Like, I think you need a bullpen piece, at least one coming back in that deal as well.
Yeah.
Like, really, I don't know. I'd say hopefully maybe like a major league or close to major league ready first baseman. I mean, we've been talking about first base for a long time with the Pirates. And then, maybe some help for the bullpen, maybe a starting pitcher. I like, these are the areas that I would probably be looking at if you were moving Bednar. And then it's like, man, what team is giving up that for a closer? But, you never know. That's why it's like, that's what Sherrington should be looking for. Now, whether a team is going to pay it, I don't know. But if you're going to trade him, the return's got to be astronomical. I mean, he's got control for 4 seasons still.
Yeah, he does have a lot of control. I don't know. I'm looking at like what we got whenever the Pirates traded Melancon, and I think you can get more for that too than what you got when you traded for them. Because
unfortunately, we're not going to mention the name on here, but the last time the Pirates had that type of a trade chip in a closer, we know that the return that they were talking about. Yeah, we know the return that they were talking about, though, and it'd be similar.
And that's one of the guys that got from Melancon, along with friend of the show Taylor Hearn.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, it all connects. But I that's why I think, like, if you're going to do it, then capitalize on it, because you're going to get a better return than you did for Melancon. And the Melancon trade, I think at least it looked pretty good at the time. And then you haven't been in this position that you could trade a reliever for the past 4 years. So I think that if you get a good enough offer, like the Pirates could have in 2019 with the Dodgers, I think that you gotta go for it. Especially if the team is just going to be complete dog water next year too.
I wonder if there's another guy in that bullpen that we're not thinking about that could be like a random trade piece. It's like Clay Holmes kind of came out of nowhere to be a trade piece for the Pirates, and obviously, like, look at what he ended up going on to do for the Yankees. Like, would someone come calling with a decent price for like a Dauri Moreta or, you know, Colin Holderman potentially? Like, is there somebody else in that bullpen that a team is going to come calling about?
There could be. I mean, I feel like there are just random trades that don't seem to make sense, at least to Pirates fans, but then they turn out being okay. It's going to be a guy that we're not thinking about. Like, I don't even know.
The guy I don't want to trade from that bullpen just recently, like, really started to come on, I feel like, is De Los Santos. He looks really good. I think that he could be, you know, a late inning guy kind of in the grooming right now. So he would be the one I'd like to hang on to. I mean, you know, if a team's going to come calling about a Moreta or a Holderman and we flip them for more than what we traded for them and Kevin Newman and Daniel Vogelbach, you know, so be it. I like those guys, but it's like, again, bullpen pieces on a bad team and relievers. I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen because they're not, but like, you know, you rebuild bullpens every single year.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mlodzinski. Am I saying that right?
Oh, yeah. Cameron Mlodzinski.
Or Majinski? Apologies, Cameron. Apologies. But I mean, he's performed well in the past like month. So
this is his first time up too. I mean, I don't think he would get moved, but I mean, he'd have like 6 years of control to whoever he went to. So
the value's high right now. Okay.
He was a former first round like comp pick.
Oh, really?
He's Sherrington's first draft pick that made it to the majors.
Well,
because he was up a little bit before Davis.
There you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So yeah, Ben definitely ain't trading him. That's his first guy up.
That's a good way of thinking about it. He's going to trade all of Huntington's guys before he can trade his own.
Yep, absolutely. Got to get them all out of here. I don't think I have anything else. I'm with you. I think I'm with you in terms of who I think shouldn't be out. I think that we've seen. Or wait, would he still make one more start? Hill. Let's see. He'll make one more start. I'm not sure if they have an off day that would change.
I think he'd start.
Okay.
Unless they purposely held him out.
Well, they could move him before deadline day. But yeah, also, they might hold him out anyway. So we might have seen the last start of Rich Hill as a Pirate. I
think Santana stays. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Just because like he seems just so already ingrained into what this 2023 club is. You'd almost like to just, unless the return's going to be something like he's not worth trading for, in my opinion, for a lottery ticket. Heck, I wouldn't care if they gave him another year. You know, back. I don't know if I want to see him get as many at bats next year, but that also wasn't the plan this year. It's like G-Man Choi got hurt, so Santana had to play a ton more than he was supposed to. Right. So I wouldn't mind if they brought him back into the year.
I wouldn't either.
I think Hill goes. Hill's the only one that I'm like definitively on. Like I think it's Hill for sure. Choi's a pretty good bet, especially because he's come back and hit so well. Like I think that they could definitely move him for a little bit more than we would have thought.
Is a name that we're not bringing up because we don't think the Pirates have it in them to break our hearts again. McCutchen.
That's not happening.
Imagine how pissed everybody would be.
Like the thing about it was, I don't remember who the first person from like the national media to put it out was, but they were like, it could make sense because then they could just, you know, re-sign him again in free agency. First off, like, unless you have that handshake agreement, if I was McCutchen, I'm not re-signing here again. Like after they do that again, like no way.
Right.
I'm not letting them, you know, pawn me off like this again, just to re-sign and do them a favor. I don't see a way that it happens.
I don't either. I just figured I'd bring it up because just imagine the backlash. I mean,
there was even one article.
You think the backlash is bad whenever you're just performing bad? Ben Sherrington's never traded Andrew McCutchen. He should see the backlash then. Okay.
Yeah.
Like he'll probably get death threats if that happens.
We got Brian Reynolds out of that deal, and there are still some people that are like, I don't even care. I don't think they should have ever traded Andrew McCutchen.
Right. Oh man,
right.
That would be so funny though. But yeah, no, I agree. McCutchen, in my opinion, and even though like his batting average has dipped a little bit over the past like month or two, like his on base is still around like 375, 380. So
yeah,
I'm still in the camp of McCutchen can be on this team as long as he wants until he retires. I don't really care at that point.
I'm with you. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. Make the damn trade, Kyle. Pick up the phone.
Yep. We keep saying it, thinking that the next time that we talk, it's going to be done, but hasn't happened. So the next time we do talk, though, it will be in August. So this is the last show of July. So August, really exciting month.
Almost on our anniversary mark. So
yeah, true.
We'll be less than a month away. And I made the prediction on July 10th that Erik Karlsson would be a Penguin, and we're 2.5 weeks out from that. So pick up the phone, Kyle. We'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, we will see you guys in August. Of course, as Tyler mentioned at the beginning of the show, please take a look at those links in the description. Check them out. The GoFundMe is set up for year 6 of Rock Around the 412. We've raised $25,000 in the first 5 years of doing so. We're really excited to partner up with the Salvation Army of East Rochester, PA, and help them out with their Angel Tree as well as giving back to the families like we always do. So that link is live. You guys can donate. Please share. Get as many eyes and ears as you can on it. Shout out to Haley and Everything Custom Design. She's actually working on 2 shirts for me right now, a custom Henry Davis shirt and an Alex Highsmith shirt. So when I get those, I'll be rocking them on here and you guys can see the work that she does. You have something else?
As of most of you listening to this, we are a week away from the Hall of Fame game, which means we are a week away from having football from now until February.
Yeah, Cleveland and the Jets, right? That's the Hall of Fame game. Really weird.
That is. I mean, I don't even know if no. I'm a football junkie. I'm gonna watch it, but
I'll at least start out watching it, like for sure. We'll see how much.
Does Aaron Rodgers take a snap?
No.
That means
new team, new offense. He might.
Who knows? He's a wild card. Aaron Rodgers is always
also
been a wild card.
I feel like Salah's like that type of coach where he's like, yeah, my guys are gonna play. They're gonna play like a drive. So
yeah, if you do that, kind of like then Sean Sweezum's gonna tear his ACL.
I feel like he's kind of that like same Dan Campbell type, mold. How wild is it? The NFL last year's NFL rushing leader, Josh Jacobs, was playing like the 4th quarter of the Hall of Fame game last year. And everyone thought like something was going on with the Raiders and he was going to end up like getting traded or cut or something. I remember like that was like a huge talking point, and then he ended up leading the league in rushing. And now he's not with the Raiders because he's holding out because of the running back situation, but neither here nor there. Again, check out the links in the description. Of course, subscribe, leave us a like, leave us a comment. Helps us out a ton. Help us grow, help the channel grow. Appreciate you guys. Follow us everywhere. Until next week, like I said, we'll see you guys in August. Bye-bye.